Today's Cowboys Report is made possible by Roan. We'll tell you all about them later on in today's show, but do make note, you can get 20% off your order on polos like this one by going to roan.com/chatsports and using code chatsports. We're taking a look at what I am calling my perfect offseason plan for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I'm trying to be somewhat realistic here, i.e. I'm not making Jerry Jones step down as owner, and I'm also having a little bit of choose-your-own-adventure option, so it's not as rigid as like only 10 things you can do. There's some deviations in the path and different options you can choose as well. Now, our next goal is 2,500 and a half subscribers. Hit that sub button, 200,000. If you haven't already, we are the most subscribed Cowboys YouTube channel, and I want to keep bumping those numbers up. Hit that sub button if you haven't already done so. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV. Before we get into the perfect offseason plan, the number one thing the Dallas Cowboys must do this offseason, and it is non-negotiable, is change their mindset. If the Dallas Cowboys do not adopt a more aggressive approach, if they are not willing to spend more than they have previously, if they are not willing to actually go all in the actual definition of that phrase, and not the made-up one from Jerry Jones, it's not going to matter. If the Dallas Cowboys choose to operate the same way they've operated their business for the past 25 plus years, it's not going to matter. If they continue to not spend money the way the other top contenders are, if they choose to not take risks, if they choose to aim for a 10 to 12 win season, which sets their ceiling in the end, look, they might get to 10 or 12 wins. They might win a playoff game, but they're not going to have the level of success that we all desperately want them to. If the Cowboys are not willing to adapt and change and adjust their strategies and ways, none of this matters. Doesn't matter who the head coach is. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Doesn't matter who insert wide receiver to offensive line, whatever. It's all moot. It's just not going to be quite good enough in the end. Let's get some more like non-philosophical ranting there. Number two is I would replace Mike McCarthy, and I would do a real coaching search. In an ideal world, I get Ben Johnson as my head coach. I hire him from the Lions. I pay him whatever because there's no salary cap on coaches. It's only cheapness that would prevent you from not adding a big-time name. But I would also do a real search, and I would have started this yesterday. I would have sent out my requests. I would have lined up an interview with Mike Vrabel. And I got 10 names on here you can try. Both Vikings coordinators. Defensive name in Aaron Glenn, Kellen Moore, Todd Monken, Joe Brady, Liam Coen, former coaches like Mike Vrabel, Pete Carroll, Ben Johnson, guys with experience, guys with offensive-minded backgrounds, and I would do a real coaching search. Look, I can't control the process. Maybe in the end, Ben Johnson says, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be involved with your organization. But you have to try. You can't just not interview him in the end. You can control your process. And that starts with doing a real head coaching search. Now, what is your confidence level? I think they're going to have some low answers here. In the Cowboys this offseason. Scale it for me from 1 to 10. Let me know in the comment section of today's show, the pinned comment of today's video. Step number 3, let's go ahead and aggressively create some salary cap space. And the moves I have here are barely even aggressive. You've got around $19 million in current cap space. You're going to restructure Dak Prescott. That saves you about $36 million. You'll restructure CeeDee Lamb. That saves you $20. Safeties can get cut if you want, or you can restructure Terrence Steele or restructure Trayvon Diggs and save anywhere from 6 to 15 individual on those moves, millions of dollars. We'll break it down on a future show how you can get to 100, but you can easily free up salary cap space. And that will allow you to re-sign your own and actually spend money in free agency for once. The Cowboys are not really spending money right now. They don't have a lot of investments set up at the moment. So create your salary cap space and set yourself up to do some fun stuff for the first time in a while, it feels like, in the offseason. Today's show is made possible by Roan. Starchy, stiff workwear is not optimal when you have to endure your busiest, most important days. With the Commuter Collection, your clothing looks professional, performs like activewear, and feels like total comfort. It's looking good without having to think about it. Roan has premium pieces to elevate every occasion. We're talking the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos, and blazers, all boosted with functional performance properties. Their signature technical fabrics stretch in every direction, breathe, fight odor and the elements, and effortlessly work everywhere so you can stay calm and collected even if life takes unexpected turns. The Commuter Collection can get you through any workday and right into whatever comes next, whether that's just the drive home from work, drinks, or even the golf course once the weather gets a little bit not freezing cold. Head to roan.com/chatsports and use code chatsports. Save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/chatsports and use code chatsports. It's time to embody your most confident self. Link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Step number 4, I'm just going to pay Micah Parsons ASAP. And if you want to argue the trade side too, whatever, I'm sure that'll come back up here on the show at some point. I've got a Hall of Fame path for Micah Parsons right now. I have a really tough time moving on from that guy. Making Micah Parsons the highest paid defensive player ever, doing it before the free agency, would actually save you money short term and in the long term. It would. There is zero justifiable reason right now to have a $21.32 million cap hit for 2025. That should not be on the books to begin free agency. It just limits your potential short-term spending. Don't make the same mistake you made with DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons, or not Micah Parsons, and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Pay Micah. This would free up around an additional $15 million in salary cap space. Again, we could be way beyond $100 million to spend. Way beyond it. And the Jones boys might say, oh, but what about 2029? Who cares? Go win now. Don't give me that BS about, oh, we got to make sure our books are in line 4 years from now. If you're always worried about 4 years from now, then the future never ends up being important for you. Now, piggybacking on number 4, I'm also going to try to re-sign some of my own. Now, I'm not going to bring back everybody. And you can pick and choose which ones you want to sign. Maybe you fill a different free agent in somewhere else. But some notable names here. Zach Martin, I think, is going to retire. We'll see. Jordan Lewis, I would love to bring him back. Nickel corners are not normally that expensive, but he's due. This is his last big chance for a contract, probably. Rico Dowdle shouldn't be expensive. Osa Odigizua might be. He might be $10+ million per year. But guess what? The DT market is expensive, and you are in bad shape there. We'll talk about that later on in today's show, too. If Zim's back, I'm down to bring back Eric Kendricks. I need a veteran linebacker in the fold anyway. I got to pick probably 2 of Chauncey Golston, Carl Lawson, and Marcus Lawrence, or insert somebody else there. Devontae Turpin's an RFA. That one's pretty easy. Brock Hoffman's an ERFA. That's super easy as well. Again, we'll go over the full list later on. A lot of the stuff we're talking about today we'll have more in-depth versions on in future videos, so make sure you guys are locked in for that. But I'm going to re-sign some of my own, and it's not going to take all $80 million in salary cap space I can have. Not even remotely going to take that. So because it's not taking all of that, I'm going to spend actual money in free agency. Now, we will do lists of all the top names, the realistic names. There's a couple of different position groups we'll target. If you're cutting a safety, you probably want to go get a Justin Simmons or a Javon Holland, but you have to spend more. You have to. It is a competitive disadvantage to not spend money the way the rest of the NFL is. Every other NFL team that is in the playoffs this year has spent money on free agents more than you have. Every single one. It doesn't have to be the top-end name of Javon Holland, who I would love if you cut Malik Hooker. Be all for that. It doesn't have to be that name. But it can't just be bargain bin. And if you're going to do bargain bin, it has to be double-digit names. And because you're going to miss on the bargain bin, guys. It's going to happen. You know, when you sign free agents, you're going to have hits like Eric Kendricks. You'll have misses like Ezekiel Elliott. And when those are like the only 2 things you do, boy, the overall impact looks bad. You have to spend more money in free agency. I am tired of the Cowboys spending less guaranteed money on free agents than the inevitable Super Bowl champion spends on one individual player. It's happened like 7 years in a row. That can't keep happening. Now, if you have doubts about this, I get it. Will the Cowboys actually spend in free agency? Y for yes, N for no. Now, look, Terrence Steele's going to be a cut candidate for the Cowboys. Again, we'll spend more time on that in the not-too-distant future. I need to figure out my offensive line plan and what my needs are. Zach Martin's a free agent. Chuma Adoga's a free agent. Now, Hoffman will be back, so he's an ERFA. That's a freebie. He'll be back. I could get by with Guyton Smith, Beebe, Hoffman, and Terrence Steele. Now, if I cut Terrence Steele, tackle's a big need for me. Richards did not play great in the last game. I don't fully trust him. I don't believe in Matt Lutzko, Earl Bostic. I think Nathan Thomas is a backup guard in the end. So if I bring back Hoffman and Steele, I'm probably fine, actually, on the offensive line. But moving on from Steele, whether I'm putting Guyton at left tackle or right tackle, I still need to find another piece there. I would say I don't know if you need to invest another first-round pick in the spot. I wonder if you can get by with additional options. The free agency class, though, is not great for the offensive line. That is worth mentioning. I think actually your biggest need might be what's number 8 on this list. I need a second playmaker. And that can come from wide receiver. That can come from tight end. That can come from running back potentially. It's a little bit less impactful in terms of the passing game. But I need somebody that's not Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, or whatever. Probably not going to be Jonathan Mingo either, by the way. So some names at receiver. You're not going to get T. Higgins. Don't even bother with it. I doubt you get Chris Godwin, but he's coming off the injury. Cowboys love to win the deal. Stephon Diggs will be a very popular target. I don't know if Amari Cooper wants to make his return to the organization. Maybe Marquise Brown is cheap coming off the injury. And then you get to some lesser names that I don't think really strike me as a really legitimate wide receiver 2 option. So I will look to the draft. Tet McMillan, Luther Burden, maybe Emeka Ibuka, or actually probably Emeka Ibuka, frankly, as a secondary option. Elike Omenor, and then it's, say, a Bond, Trey Harris gets a little bit dicier there. The receiver talent is, in terms of like getting an impact guy early, historically got to go early. And I also am in general down to add a running back. Like I think a good plan is to re-sign Rico Dowdle and draft somebody to pair with him. Now, if you're bringing back Rico, I'd like to find the explosive playmaker. And that's a Travion Henderson. And that's a Devin Neal. That's a Nick Singleton. There are other good backs, though. Cam Scadaboo's got fans. Obviously, I am one of them. Caleb Johnson and Marion Hampton's awesome. If Genty's on the board at pick 12, that's probably going to be the best player on the board. So if you fill all of your other needs, no one will be mad if you take a running back in round 1. I also will mention tight end here because I was really disappointed by Jake Ferguson. Seemed like he just lost some confidence this year. I don't trust Luke Schoonmaker. These are good tight ends. Penn State's Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Gunnar Helm, Mason Taylor. Harold Fannin is almost just a big receiver at tight end. But tight ends historically are of a slower adjustment period to the NFL. We've seen that time and time again. Saw it with Ferguson and Dalton Schultz too, by the way. Took them a year plus. We're maybe seeing better growth from Schoonmaker. I don't know if I want to spend another premium pick on a tight end. That's why I might just go get a receiver and hope that Schoonmaker or Ferguson take a step forward this upcoming season. Another spot that is slow to develop in the draft side is defensive tackle. Mozzie Smith was better this year. I think he can be one of your 4 defensive linemen. I don't know if Justin Rogers can be another one. So I've got 1 defensive lineman under contract at that spot on the interior. I have to add talent. And I cannot wait until August to do that, or it's not going to work out. Some notable names in the defensive tackle room. Milton Williams, who can do some inside-outside stuff, had an awesome year for Philly. They might not be able to keep him. Javon Hargrave for the Niners. I like DJ Jones. With, unfortunately, the Lions paid Aleem McNeil, who I wanted, but he got paid. Levi Onwuzurike has been really good for them. Also got hurt in Week 18. Javon Kinlaw's former first-round pick. I loved what I saw from Sebastian Joseph Day. He's not a pass rusher, but he was a really good run stopper. Poona Ford can still stop the run. I want to overhaul this defensive tackle room, especially if I lose Osa Odigizua. I'm going to sign 1 or 2 guys, and I'm drafting 1 or 2 guys at minimum. It probably needs to be 3, 4, 5 new bodies in that room. This is a spot you need to overhaul. And in an ideal world, as long as I, get safety spent, or at least I have enough, maybe I bring back Wanye Thomas and Marquise Bell, and I have enough to get by there, I want to set up my draft to go BPA. That is what I want. I want the Cowboys draft their best when they simply take the best player on their board. When they are not limited to, we got to take a tackle. We got to get the defensive. We need the corner. When they just take the best player on their board, like they did in the Lamb Diggs draft, good things happen. So it's a bit of a overarching viewpoint, or plan, I suppose. Grade the plan. A, B, C, D, or F, and something tells me it'll be better than anything the Joneses end up cooking up.